can only one man or woman save Nigeria? And this was in regards to the expectation from one single person, which is the president. And the question is it actually realistic? When you look at development in Nigeria, that has, or any state that have managed to develop to an extent in Nigeria in the last 20 years, there's always been an impact of having a working governor, right? And Nigerians, somehow we paid so much attention to what happens on the presidency, and if we're actually being fair, they're probably the most effective arm of government as well. Do you know, when you think about it, the presidency they do quite a lot, and the people that will actually change our lives, the people that have the most impact on our day-to-day, we don't hold them accountable. The governors, the local government chairman, the councillors, these are the people that we have the most access to. They're the ones that actually have the power to change our day-to-day quicker.
Directly.
But we never directly, exactly. But we never hold them accountable. It's like seeing a road in the corner of your estate and you think, oh, Nigeria is so bad because the president. Come on, this should be your councillor in your estate, in your area, or your local government chairman. And that same person, you probably go to the same church or mosque or shrine with this person.
I mean, I grew up not even knowing the roles of, at least these are the two direct politicians that I knew as a child, even when I was not even knowing what the government was about or whatever. It's like the councillor of your area and the local government chairman. I mean, I used to have one so close to where I live. All he does was flex around, just show off his riches, and it's like lifestyle, and no one really called him out for anything, and everyone was always complaining, either like talking about the governor or the president, right? So no one was really talking about and this guy was like flexing. Yeah.
So this chairman and councillors, they'll sit in the same room with you and blame the governor or the president.
Exactly.
Like they're there. They have a responsibility for your
I think they
have a responsibility for your area.
They don't jazz us.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. To not really see that they should also, they were elected for, I mean, I will tell you, even to date, I'm not really sure what they are supposed to do, aside the fact that I know that they are the ones directly responsible for your immediate problems, right? But I haven't really seen a situation where people, they hold them accountable, like, oh, this councillor or this local government chairman, and they just goes around.
This is an honest spot. You have a master's degree, but even for you, it's something where you're unable to say, this is clearly the role of my local government chairman. This is where that responsibility ends, and this is where the councillor's responsibility begin. This is where the chairman responsibility ends. This is where the governors begin, and this is where the presidential responsibility or the federal executive responsibility begins. That's reasonable. Trust me, myself. I have a little bit of an idea because I've paid some attention out of the way that I've always worried about it, but I also don't know it properly. Like, I don't know it enough to go and hold the chairman and say, apart from when it comes to what they have to do with regards to road, like what's the responsibility of the chairperson in your local government with regards to security?
How do they share the fund? Like, how does the fund go around when it comes to...
That's an interesting one. And this is also one of the reasons that I think we should be holding our governors accountable even more than the president. You see, whether Nigeria has money or not, right? The state allocation from the federal government still goes to them, and the state still has a lot of opportunities and route to making extra money, right? So basically what happens in the country is we have some natural resources and we have some earnings that goes straight to the federal government. For example, federal institutions, FIRS earnings, NNPC earnings. All these earnings go straight to the federal government. So the federal government is the richest arm of government. What the federal government then have to do with that is they go into the usual monthly FEC meeting, Federal Executive Council, which consists of the Vice President and all the governors and the Minister of Finance, I think. They go into that meeting and they decide what the allocation for every state, from every money that comes to the federal government, what's the state allocation. So every state gets their allocation. The governors are so powerful, and the federal government is so diligent in the duty of allocating that state allowance that they really fail in doing that. Even when the country is poor, the state allowance goes to the state. Now, when the state allowance comes to the state, the governor is now in control. Constitutionally, there should be a separate arrangement for the local government. But however, the way it currently works is that the government then decide what goes to the local government. But they all get allocation, which is a pie of a pie of a pie. But each arm of government also then have an opportunity to use different ways to make money. So there's also then the state taxes that we pay. There are other things that states have, like if you look at Lagos State, they make a lot of money internally. There are also then certain revenue that the local government can generate, like all this Omonile, all these small road transport workers and all that stuff. Some of them actually remit back to their local government.
NRTW, yeah.
Right. So
it's like a legal,
yeah, exactly. So there is fund coming in, and what we are not educated about properly is, what is my local government chairman responsible for? How does it break down to the councillor? And we make sure that every arm of government does their job. That's when we can start thinking about what is the job of the presidency. And trust me, when you put it on paper, the presidency is probably the most effective arm of government. They are probably the ones doing us.
Do we even have this in our curriculum? Like I would imagine these are things we should be taught, like in secondary school or something, you know. But at least I was taught like some surface level.
The high level arm of government. If you've got executive, judiciary, legislative, and then you also have, then if you're in a republic, what is the split? It's the same in many countries that happens to be a republic. You've got the federal government, state government, and local government. In Germany, for example, there's a lot of emphasis around who is your community, whatever, like who is the community leader, then if you would, for example, live in a state in Germany, the minister president of that state is so powerful, and they pay so much attention to that as well. So they know where they are demanding for what. What is this responsible for? What is this responsible for? Is this group responsible for education at all? What type of education? To some extent, it's also clear what the state governors do, because there's a clear separation between state schools and state roads and state. I think when you then break it, exactly, when you break it down even lower, that's when it starts to become tough. But the state government has so much power over the local government that maybe it might also be much difficult to hold local government chairmen responsible for something, because I've seen a scenario, I think it was Ajimobi in Oyo State, where he just didn't let the local government elections hold. I mean, you can tell. Let me know if I'm wrong, but I remember hearing that there were just no local government chairman. But anyway, so to round up my own side of the story, I feel like yes, one man can't save Nigeria. One man or woman can't save Nigeria, especially when it comes to the responsibility that we hold the presidency to. We also need to get educated enough to know what to demand from the ones that we actually have more access to in this breakdown of government that we have. What do we normally call it? What do we normally call these levels of government? Decentralized system that we have, exactly.
So and we also need, as a people, to know the right metrics that determines a good governance or a bad governance. That's one thing I think Nigeria has also struggled with. When it's easy to do eye service good governance in Nigeria, those are not like the fundamental problems. If you know what I mean, like you can really fix the symptoms rather than the disease, itself. So a lot of Nigerians will be happy with someone who is just high servicing them, like You get what I mean? Rather than actually doing the work, even though right now the symptoms or the signs you are seeing might seem like he's not doing anything or she's not doing anything, but that's actually fixing the problem. But
That
yeah,
that
I'll
that
leave it
makes a
at
lot
that.
of sense. That makes a lot of sense, and I have something to say on that as well. So, I wouldn't say it's a Nigerian problem alone. What I think I remember doing this. Yeah, I remember reading a lot of papers around governance and institutional development globally, and one of the biggest issue is that politicians are incentivized to do things that people can see, right? So instead of focusing on the curriculum of the education system, I would rather build new schools and then teach the shitty curriculum in those new schools, because you can see new schools and I can campaign with, I built 50 schools, right? um so the politicians are incentivized to do that, but that incentive is coming from what we determine, what we exactly the metrics that we use to judge them. Yeah, this is what we call good governance. And when you pay attention, a good example is this is not an endorsement of any candidate, by the way, yeah, but a good example is what's happening in Nigeria at the moment. You see, when we've had previous presidents that economically they should have removed subsidy, but because it didn't look good on their portfolio as politicians, they didn't do it. Yeah, our previous presidents didn't do it. But now we have a president that decided that I don't care, if we are going to survive as a country, we have to remove subsidy. And people are not seeing they're not seeing the genius in actually doing that. They're not seeing I feel like people are not seeing that this is a politician looking at their political career and thinking, I will take the risk. I'm taking a bullet. They don't see taking out subsidy as taking a bullet. But when you actually look deep down into the economics of Nigeria, any president that took out subsidy and took it out properly forever, that person took a bullet. Of course, in the long run, the effect would show. A great example as well was Ajimobi in Ibadan, right? In Ibadan, no governor ever won a second term. And when Abiola Ajimobi, may so rest in peace, right? In his first term, he did certain things. So Ibadan used to have like a lot of market women on the road, dirt everywhere, and all that stuff. And what Abiola Ajimobi did in his first term was to clear out those places and try to build markets in places where markets should actually be, not on the road anymore. And these are markets that have been there for years. Like a lot of old women that I worried at the time if they would understand what he was doing. But in the long run, by the time the next election came, he won a second term, and no one can tell me it wasn't a fair election. Of course, elections are mago all the time, but that it was the choice of the majority. And I was so surprised. It made me so happy that the people of Oyo State recognized that even though they suffered when he cleared those roads, they recognized what he was doing, that it was for the good of the state in the long run. And he won a second term, the first governor of Oyo State to ever win a second term. And I think that's probably going to happen as we go on in this particular tenure. I'm pretty sure at some point, the hardship that Nigerians are facing, and this is my hope. This is not to say that I endorse a particular candidate. I might not have voted Tinubu or not if I would have voted in the last election. But I'm just saying, from the economic perspective, what it's doing at the moment, I appreciate a lot. And it hurts me to see that we are suffering from some of these things. It's just, I think it's an impact of some of the failures we've had before as well. And 2-3 years from now, we will all smile and be very happy about how far we would have come by then. And this is my hope for the country as well.